My wife texted me at 7:15 on a Tuesday morning. I don't have to tell you where I am. Stop asking. I was sitting 2 booths behind her at the Lakeside Diner. The coffee in front of me had gone cold. Earl's Grill hissed behind the counter, bacon grease popping in the morning quiet. Salt from last night's freeze crunched under someone's boots by the door. Through the frost-edged window, I could see my truck in the parking lot, diesel engine ticking as it cooled. Diane sat in the corner booth with Marcus Vance, the developer. Her red coat was draped over the vinyl seat. She was laughing, leaning close while he showed her something on his phone. I typed back, "Turn around," watched her read it, watched confusion cross her face as she scanned the diner. When her eyes found mine, everything stopped. The ambient noise, the movement. Her hand frozen halfway to Marcus's coffee cup. I raised my phone, tapped the screen, sent one more text, smile for the camera. Her face drained white. I had 42 more photos in my truck. She didn't know that yet. I stood up, left a $5 bill on the table, walked past their booth without looking. The bell over the door chimed as I pushed out into the January cold. My breath fogged in the parking lot. The steering wheel burned cold through my work gloves when I climbed into the truck. I sat there for a minute, engine running, heat blasting. Through the diner window, I could see Diane standing now, phone pressed to her ear. Marcus was leaning back in the booth, arms crossed, calculating. The folder sat on my passenger seat. Trail camera photos, 42 of them, printed at the Walmart in town. 6 weeks of Tuesdays, same booth, same closeness. One photo showed Marcus's hand on her knee. Another showed them in his truck in my back 40, her head on his shoulder. I'd found the first tire tracks 3 weeks ago during my morning walk. Fresh ruts near the property line, too wide for my equipment. Pulled the SD card from the deer camera I'd mounted on the oak tree back in November. Hadn't checked it since hunting season. The photos told a story I hadn't wanted to read. My phone buzzed. "Diane." I let it ring, started driving. The equipment lot looked gray in the winter light. 60 acres of machinery and memories. My father's legacy turned into my livelihood. I'd been a dealer for 37 years. Sold tractors, combines, implements to every farmer in 3 counties. Knew the sound of a bad bearing. Could spot a cracked cylinder head from 20 yards away. But I'd missed the sound of my marriage breaking down. I parked by the Quonset hut. The lot was quiet, snow packed hard between the rows of equipment. A crow called from the grain silo, the sound flat in the cold air. I walked the perimeter like I did every morning, checking tire pressure on a 68 Ford, running my hand along a combine's header. The metal burned cold through my gloves. Found fresh tracks again, different ones this time. Coming from the county road access, tire width matched Marcus's F-250. They'd been here sometime after midnight, judging by the frost pattern. I pulled my phone out, opened the text thread with Diane. Me, when are you coming home? 3 dots appeared, disappeared. Appeared again. Diane, I need some space. I'm staying at the Holiday Inn for a few days. Me, Holiday Inn doesn't have laminate counters. The dot stopped. No response. I walked back to the office, a double-wide trailer we'd been meaning to replace for 15 years. Inside smelled like coffee and hydraulic fluid, and the propane heater that never quite kept up with the cold. I pulled up the Find My iPhone app. We'd set it up years ago, one of those just-in-case things married people do. Her phone was at 47 Riverside Drive, Marcus Vance's condo development. The one he'd been trying to get my signature on for a zoning variance needed my approval as the adjoining landowner. I'd kept saying no. Now I knew why he'd sent Diane to ask instead. My phone rang. Ray Kowalski, my business partner and auctioneer for 40 years. "Earl just called me," Ray said. No preamble. "Said you had an interesting breakfast. News travels fast." "It's a small town, Walt. You okay?" I looked out the window at the equipment lot. At the land my father had bought in 1952 with a handshake and a promise. At the business I'd built, selling honest machinery to honest people who paid with handshakes of their own. I've been better. "You need anything?" "Not yet." Ray was quiet for a moment. I could hear wind on his end, the distant sound of his barn door creaking. My wife's making a casserole. "I'll bring it by later." "Ray, shut up and accept the help, Walt. This is what neighbors do." He hung up before I could argue. I sat in the office chair, springs squeaking, and opened the folder again, studied each photo. Diane and Marcus at the diner, at his condo, in his truck on my land. The timestamps ran from early December through yesterday, 6 weeks of Tuesdays while I thought she was showing houses. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. "Mr. Brennan, this is Marcus Vance. I think we should talk." Man to man. I stared at it for a long time, deleted it without responding. Outside, the wind picked up. It whistled through the gaps in the Quonset hut, rattled the office windows. The propane heater clicked on, struggling against the cold. I pulled out a legal pad and started making a list. Timeline, evidence, questions that needed answers. My handwriting was steady, no shaking, just the cold clarity I'd felt in the diner, like someone had turned down the color saturation on the world. They thought I was just the old equipment dealer who couldn't keep his wife interested. Thought I'd roll over and take whatever they offered in the divorce. My phone buzzed again, Diane this time. We need to talk about the house. I looked at the equipment lot, at the land, at everything I'd built. Typed back, the house is fine. We'll talk through lawyers. Her response came fast. Don't be like this. We can handle it like adults. I almost laughed. Set the phone face down on the desk. The wind rattled the windows again. Through the frost, I could see fresh snow starting to fall. The lawyer's letter arrived 3 days later. I was in the lot, under a 72 International, changing the oil pan gasket when Earl's pickup rattled up the drive. He climbed out, handed me an envelope without a word. His breath steamed in the cold. Certified mail came to the diner, he said. Carrier knows you take coffee there most mornings. 8. I wiped my hands on a rag, took the envelope. Law offices of Patricia Chen. I knew the name. Handled most of the real estate closings in town. You want me to stay? Earl asked. I'm good. Then he nodded. Stood there anyway while I opened it. Petition for legal separation and emergency property partition. The words swam for a second before focusing. Diane was requesting immediate division and sale of all marital assets. Claimed irreconcilable differences. Requested temporary restraining order, preventing me from dissipating marital funds or disposing of joint property. There was more. 2 pages of legal language that boiled down to one thing. She wanted everything split and sold now. I flipped to the attached exhibits. Found a property deed amendment dated January 7th, 3 weeks ago. The day I'd been home with the flu, too sick to get out of bed. My signature was at the bottom, except I'd never signed it. Walt? Earl's voice came from far away. I looked up. The sky was flat gray, pressing down. Snow had started again, small flakes that stung when they hit skin. I need to make a call, I said. Earl took the letter, read it. His jaw tightened. This is dated when you were sick. Yeah. You signed this? No. He folded the letter carefully, handed it back. My cousin's a lawyer, practices in Columbus. I'll call him. You can shut up and let people help. That's what you can do. He headed for his truck, stopped. Diane came into the diner this morning, ordered the usual, acting like nothing happened. She say anything? Asked if you'd been in. I told her I hadn't seen you. Earl climbed into his truck. Far as I'm concerned, I haven't. He drove off, gravel crunching under his tires. I stood in the lot holding the letter. The wind cut through my coveralls, carried the smell of diesel and cold metal and coming snow. A semi passed on the county road, Jake brake growling. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Mr. Brennan, this is Patricia Chen. I'm representing your wife in the separation proceedings. I wanted to reach out personally before things get adversarial. Things are already adversarial. Oh, as I understand you're upset. But Mrs. Brennan, we're still married. Silence. Then, carefully, Mrs. Brennan is willing to be very reasonable about the division of assets. She's not asking for spousal support, just a clean 50-50 split and the ability to move forward. That's generous of her. Mr. Brennan, I never signed that deed amendment. Another pause, longer this time. The notary stamp is authentic. Are you claiming your signature was forged? I'm claiming I was in bed with the flu on January 7th. Didn't sign anything. Do you have proof of that? I thought about it. Prescription receipt, maybe. Earl had brought soup that day, but that didn't prove much. I'll find some. Mr. Brennan, I'm going to be frank. Challenging this in court will be expensive and time-consuming. Mrs. Brennan is offering a fair settlement. I'd advise you to consider it carefully. I'll get my own lawyer. That's your right. But accusations of forgery are serious. If you can't prove them, it could impact the court's perception of your credibility going forward. She hung up before I could respond. I stood in the cold, phone in one hand, letter in the other. The snow was picking up, already dusting the equipment, softening the hard edges of metal and rubber. A truck turned into the lot. Not Earl's. This one was newer, black F-250 with chrome packages. Marcus Vance climbed out, hands in his pockets. Walt, he said, we need to talk. Don't think we do. Look, this whole thing got out of hand. Diane and I, it just happened. We didn't plan it. You were on my property, surveying my land. His expression shifted. Surprise, then wariness. I don't know what you're talking about. Trail camera by the oak tree. Got you on film, December 19th, placing survey stakes on my Northwest 40. He recovered fast. I was checking boundary lines for the zoning variance. It's standard procedure for adjacent property assessments. At midnight? I work when I can. You've been pretty clear you won't meet with me during business hours. I stepped closer, close enough to smell his cologne over the diesel fumes. Stay off my land. It might not be your land much longer, he smiled. Not friendly. Diane owns half, and she's very motivated to sell. He walked back to his truck. started it. Backed out slowly, deliberately, like he owned the place already. The snow fell harder. I went inside the office, turned the heater up, and called the first lawyer I could find. The lawyer Earl's cousin recommended couldn't see me for 2 weeks. I made the appointment anyway, hung up, and sat staring at the legal papers spread across my desk. A car pulled into the lot, not a truck this time. A silver Lexus sedan with Ohio plates. I didn't recognize it. The driver's door opened. A woman climbed out, mid-40s, wearing a long coat and boots meant for city sidewalks, not equipment lots. She picked her way carefully through the snow, stopped when she saw me, watching from the office window. It took me a full 5 seconds to realize who she was. Charlie? My daughter stood in the lot, hands in her pockets, breath steaming. We stared at each other across 20 feet of frozen ground. 5 years since I'd seen her. 5 years since she had told me. She was tired of coming in second to the business, tired of watching me choose tractors over Christmas dinner, tired of being the daughter of a man who measured time in equipment sales and planting seasons. She'd been right about most of it. "Hi, Dad." I walked out. We stood there, awkward, neither of us moving closer. Snow fell between us. "Earl called you," I said. "He thought you might need help, professional help." Charlie was a forensic accountant. Worked for a firm in Cleveland that specialized in financial investigations. Made good money untangling corporate fraud and insurance scams. "I can handle it. Can you?" She looked past me at the office. "When's the last time you reviewed a financial disclosure statement? Challenged a deed forgery? Navigated a contested property partition?" "I've been busy. Selling tractors." "I know." She pulled her coat tighter. "Look, I'm not here to fight. Earl said Mom filed for separation. Said there might be some irregularities with the paperwork. That's one word for it. Can I see the documents?" I hesitated. Charlie and I hadn't parted well. She'd accused me of caring more about the business than her. I'd told her she didn't understand what it took to build something that lasted. We'd both said things we couldn't take back, but she was here now, and I needed help, whether I wanted to admit it or not. "Come inside. It's cold." The office smelled like old coffee and hydraulic fluid. Charlie wrinkled her nose but didn't comment. I handed her the lawyer's letter, the deed amendment, the petition. She read in silence, pulling out her phone to photograph each page. Her fingers moved fast, professional. When she finished, she looked up. "This signature," she tapped the deed. "It's not quite right. See how the W loops? Your usual signature doesn't loop, and the pressure's wrong. Whoever forged this was right-handed. You're left-handed." I stared at the paper. I'd looked at it a dozen times and hadn't noticed. "You can tell all that?" "It's what I do. But here's the problem. Proving it in court means hiring a handwriting expert, getting your medical records from January 7th, deposing the notary. It's expensive and time-consuming." She set the paper down. "Mom knows that. She's counting on you not having the resources or the energy to fight." "She'd be wrong," Charlie smiled. Small, sad. "Yeah, I figured." She walked to the window, looked out at the equipment lot. "I forgot how big this place is, how much you built here. Your grandfather started it. I just kept it going. You did more than that." She turned back. "Earl told me about the developer, about Mom and him." I didn't say anything. "I'm sorry, Dad. I know you loved her." "The past tense already? Isn't it?" I thought about Diane in the diner booth, laughing with Marcus. About the photos in my truck. About 41 years reduced to legal language and property division. "Yeah," I said. "I guess it is." Charlie pulled out her laptop, set it on my desk. "I need access to your financial records. Bank statements, property documents, anything you've got on file." "Why?" "Because if Mom forged one signature, she might have forged others. And if she's working with this developer, there might be other transactions, money moving around, property deals in the works." She opened the laptop. "I need to see the full picture before we can figure out how to fight this." "You're staying?" "For a few days, maybe longer." She looked at me. "I took leave from work, told them it was a family emergency." "Is it?" "Yeah, Dad, it is." Something loosened in my chest. Not forgiveness, exactly. We still had years of silence between us. But maybe the start of something. "There's a Holiday Inn en route. I'll stay at the house, if that's okay." The house, where I'd been living alone for 3 days, rattling around in rooms that felt too big without Diane's presence. "Your old room's still there. Bed's probably dusty." "I can handle dust." She pulled open a desk drawer, started sorting through files, found the joint bank statements, started photographing those too. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her expression changed. "What?" "I logged into Mom's iCloud. We used to share an account for family photos." She turned the laptop toward me. "Dad, you need to see this." On the screen, a folder labeled Vance Development LLC. Inside, dozens of files, property surveys, financial projections, and a document titled Brennan Equipment Lot, Subdivision Proposal. She's been planning this for months, Charlie said quietly. Charlie spent the next 2 days buried in spreadsheets. She set up in the kitchen, laptop open, printer churning out bank statements and property records. I stayed out of her way, worked the lot, tried to keep the business running. On the third day, Marcus Vance showed up again. I was under a combine, replacing a worn belt, when his shadow fell across the concrete. I rolled out, wiped my hands. Didn't I tell you to stay off my property? This is a courtesy visit. He held up a manila folder. I need your signature on a septic easement permit. Standard procedure for the development project. As the adjoining landowner, county regulations require your approval. What development project? The one your wife and I have been planning. 48 residential units on the northwest parcel. He smiled. Didn't she mention it? That land's not for sale? Actually, half of it belongs to Diane, and she's very interested in liquidating her assets. He set the folder on the workbench. The permit's just a formality. Septic lines will run along the property boundary. Legally, I need your consent. I opened the folder. Standard county form, pages of technical language about drainage and soil percolation. The signature line at the bottom weighted blank. I'm not signing anything. Then I'll file for court compulsion. Judge can mandate your cooperation if you're being obstructive. He leaned against the workbench. But that takes time, costs money. Easier for everyone if you just sign. Get out. He held up his hands. I'm trying to be reasonable here, Walt. Your marriage is over. Accept it. Sign the papers, take your half, and move on. I said get out. He left the folder, walked to his truck slowly, deliberately, climbed in and sat there for a moment, making a phone call. Then he drove away. I stood holding the permit, anger burning cold in my chest. My phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Brennan, this is Jennifer Oakes with the county clerk's office. I'm calling about your septic easement permit application. I didn't file an application. Silence. Sir, I'm looking at the approval right here. Came through this morning. Permit number SE 2024-0847. I never signed anything. The notary stamp is valid. Same notary who handled your property deed amendment last month. Papers rustled. Is there a problem with the permit? I closed my eyes. Who submitted the application? Marcus Vance, on behalf of Vance Development, LLC. More rustling. Lists you as co-applicant. Your signature's right here. When was it filed? January 23rd. Approved this morning after the standard 10-day review? 10 days ago, right after the deed amendment. I want a copy of that application, with the signature. I can mail. I'll come get it, today. I hung up, called Charlie. We've got a problem. She met me at the courthouse an hour later. We stood at the clerk's counter while Jennifer Oakes, a nervous woman in her 50s, pulled the file. Charlie photographed every page, the application, the approval, the signature that wasn't mine. This is fraud, Charlie said quietly. Jennifer's face went pale. I processed it according to procedure. The notary seal was valid. Who's the notary? Sarah Whitmore. She handles most of the commercial permits. Jennifer pulled another file. Same notary on your deed amendment. Charlie turned to me. We need to talk to her. We found Sarah Whitmore at her office on Main Street, a small storefront sandwiched between the hardware store and a tax preparer. She looked up when we walked in, and something flickered across her face. Recognition, then fear. Miss Brennan, she said, what can I do for you? You notarized 2 documents with my signature, a deed amendment and a septic permit. I notarize a lot of documents. I never signed either one. She stood up. I watched you sign, both times. That's what notaries do. We witness signatures. When did I sign them? The deed was January 7th. The permit was January 23rd. I was sick in bed on January 7th, and I was in Cleveland on the 23rd, picking up parts. I pulled out my phone, showed her the receipt. 5-hour drive. I wasn't anywhere near your office. Her hands shook slightly. Maybe I'm remembering wrong. I process dozens of documents every week. You're lying, Charlie said. Flat, professional. You notarized forged signatures. That's a felony. Sarah sat down hard. I didn't know they were forged. I swear. Marcus brought them in, said you'd already signed, just needed the notarization. You're supposed to witness the signing. That's the whole point of a notary. He paid me $500. It came out in a rush. My daughter's medical bills. I couldn't afford to say no. He said it was just a technicality, that you'd already agreed to everything. Charlie photographed Sarah's notary seal, her license number, everything. We're reporting this to the county, Charlie said. Please. Sarah's voice broke. I'll lose my license, my business. I made a mistake. You committed fraud, Charlie said. Multiple times. We left her there, walked out into the cold afternoon. Snow had started again, small flakes that melted on contact. She'll testify, Charlie said. When she realizes the alternative is prison, she'll cooperate. My phone buzzed. Diane, we need to talk. I'm filing an amended petition tomorrow. Don't make this harder than it has to be. I showed Charlie. Amended petition? Probably adding something new. Another way to squeeze me. Charlie's jaw tightened. She doesn't know we found the notary. Doesn't know we've got proof of the forgery. Not yet. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Earl. Diane's lawyer's at the diner, asking around about your mental state. Telling people you've been acting erratic. Paranoid. Says she's worried about your competency. I read it twice, felt something cold settle in my gut. They're going after your fitness, Charlie said, reading over my shoulder. Trying to make you look unstable before the hearing. Another text from Earl. Half the town's here for the lunch rush. She's making sure everyone hears. Charlie grabbed my arm. Don't go down there. That's what they want. You show up angry. You play into their narrative. So what do I do? She pulled out her phone. Started scrolling through the photos she'd taken. The forged signatures, the notary confession, the LLC documents from Diane's cloud. We document everything, she said. And we wait for them to make a mistake. But my phone was already ringing. Ray Kowalski. Walt, you need to hear this. What? I'm at the diner. Diane's lawyer just told Martha Hendricks that you tried to grab Diane at the house yesterday, that she's afraid of you. I wasn't anywhere near the house yesterday. I know that, but half the town just heard her say it. I looked at Charlie. She was already pulling up my phone's location history. We can prove where you were, she said. But the damage was done. I could feel it, the whispers starting, the doubt spreading. They weren't just trying to take my land, they were trying to make me look crazy first. The court-ordered mental evaluation letter arrived the next morning. Charlie read it twice, then slid it across the kitchen table. They moved fast. Can they do this? If Diane's lawyer convinced a judge you're a potential danger to yourself or others, yeah, they can. She tapped the date. Evaluation scheduled for April 16th, 2 days before the partition hearing. That's not a coincidence. No, it's strategic. She stood up, paced to the window. They want you evaluated right before the hearing so the results are fresh in the judge's mind. If the psychologist finds anything, confusion, paranoia, anger management issues, it undermines your credibility. I'm not confused. I know, but you're 67, recently separated, and they've spent the last week telling everyone in town that you're acting erratic. She turned back. Doesn't matter what's true, matters what they can make look true. I stared at the letter. Dr. T. Patricia Morrison, licensed clinical psychologist, April 16th at 9 a.m. What do I do? You show up, you cooperate, you prove them wrong. Charlie sat back down, and between now and then, we build our case. Dawn the next morning was clear and cold. I walked the lot like always, checking equipment, looking for frost damage on the exposed hydraulics. The air smelled like diesel and frozen earth. A robin called from the grain silo. First one I'd heard this year. Spring was coming, even if it didn't feel like it yet. Charlie appeared from the house, 2 coffee mugs in her hands. She'd been staying a week now. Her rental car was parked next to my truck, Ohio plates gathering snow. Couldn't sleep? I asked. Jet lag, or this place, still gets quiet before dawn. She handed me a mug. I forgot that, how silent it is. We stood together watching the sun clear the tree line. The fields stretched east toward the county road, white with old snow. In another 6 weeks, they'd be brown with mud. Another 6 after that, green with planting. You used to help me inspect equipment, I said. When you were little, I'd lift you up so you could check the oil. I remember. She sipped her coffee. You let me hold the dipstick. Made me feel important. You were important. She looked at me. Not important enough for you to come to my college graduation. I had a sale that day. Buyer was flying in from Michigan. I know, Dad. You explained it then. She turned back to the fields. I'm not bringing it up to fight. I'm just saying I remember, that's all. We stood in silence. A truck passed on the county road, distant engine growl. Your mom planted those lilacs, I said, pointing to the bushes near the fence line. Still bare now, but they'd bloom in another month. Purple against the spring green. Year after we got married, said every house needed something beautiful. You going to keep them? I thought about it. About Diane's hands in the dirt, planting. About 41 years of mornings like this. Coffee shared in silence before the day started. Yeah, I said. I'll keep them. They're still beautiful even if she isn't. Charlie smiled. Small, but real. That's growth, Dad. What is? Being able to separate the thing from the person who gave it to you. We finished our coffee. Charlie went back inside to work on the financial analysis. I walked the lot, checking tie rods on a vintage Ford, Testing the clutch on a Massey Ferguson. Found fresh tracks again, same tire pattern as Marcus's truck. Coming from the back 40, cutting across the snow toward the county road access. I pulled out my phone, called Ray. You still got those trail cameras from deer season? Yeah, why? I need to borrow them. All of them. By noon, I'd mounted 6 cameras around the property, one on the oak tree overlooking the back 40, one on the equipment shed, one covering the main gate, one on the Quonset hut, 2 more on the fence line where Marcus's tire tracks cut through. Motion activated, time stamped. High resolution. If he came back, I'd have proof. Ray helped me position the last one, climbing a ladder to mount it on the barn eave. You're building a case, he said. I'm protecting what's mine. Good. He climbed down. But listen, Walt, the auction I'm doing next month for the Henderson estate? What about it? I could schedule another one right after, say you're liquidating equipment, put it in the paper, make it official. I stared at him. Why would I do that? Because if Diane thinks you're broke, thinks you're selling off assets, she might get impatient, make a mistake. He folded the ladder. Just a thought. Sometimes the best way to catch someone is to give them what they think they want. That's sneaky, Ray. That's strategy. He loaded the ladder into his truck. Think about it. I can have the paperwork filed by Monday. He drove off. I stood in the lot, thinking. My phone buzzed. Charlie, Dad, you need to see this. Now, I went inside. She had her laptop open, screen filled with spreadsheets. I tracked Marcus's LLC finances. He's over-leveraged, borrowed against 3 properties to fund the residential development. She pointed to a column of numbers. He needs your land to make the project work. Without it, he's looking at bankruptcy. So this isn't just about Diane. No, this is about survival. His survival. She pulled up another document. And look at this. He made a $15,000 payment on March 10th to an offshore account. Whose account? Can't tell yet. Offshore banking makes it harder to trace. She looked up. But the timing's interesting. March 10th was the day your permit got approved. You think he paid off the clerk? I think someone got paid $15,000, right when a permit that shouldn't have been approved went through. She saved the files. I need to dig deeper. But, Dad, this goes beyond forgery. This is bribery, fraud. If we can prove it, Marcus isn't just losing a development deal. He's facing criminal charges. I looked out the window at the lot, at the land, at everything my father built and I'd protected for 67 years. Keep digging, I said. The smear campaign escalated over the next week. Martha Hendricks stopped returning my calls. The parts supplier in Toledo suddenly wanted payment up front instead of the net 30 terms we'd had for 15 years. Someone left a comment on the equipment lot's Facebook page. Heard the owner's losing it. Be careful doing business here. Charlie tracked each incident, documented everything, built a timeline of character assassination. They're trying to isolate you, she said. Make it so when you walk into that courtroom, nobody believes a word you say. Earl stayed loyal. Refused to serve Diane when she came into the diner. Told anyone who'd listen that Walt Brennan was the most stable man he knew, had been for 30 years. But Earl was one voice against a whisper campaign. The mental evaluation was in 6 days. Ray showed up on a Wednesday afternoon with a bottle of whiskey and bad news. Diane came to see me, he said. Wanted to know if you'd really filed for bankruptcy. Asked when the auction was. What did you tell her? That it's scheduled for April 18th, 10 in the morning. He poured 2 fingers into coffee mugs. She seemed real interested in the equipment list. There is no equipment list. I know that. You know that. But I filed the paperwork with the county this morning, made it official. He slid a newspaper across the table. Classified section, circled in red. Brennan Equipment Liquidation, April 18th, 10 a.m. I read it twice. You actually did it. Told you I would. He sipped the whiskey. Now we wait and see who shows up. Charlie came in from the kitchen, saw the paper. This is risky. It's bait, Ray said. If Diane and Marcus think Walt's desperate, think he's selling everything, they'll come. Can't help themselves. And when they show up, then we know for certain they're in it together. That this isn't just an affair, it's a conspiracy. Ray looked at me. You still got those trail cameras running? 24/7. Good, because I'm betting Marcus has been back on your property multiple times. And if we can prove trespassing along with the forgery and the bribery. He didn't finish. Didn't need to. Charlie cracked the offshore account 3 days later. I was in the lot, greasing a combine header when she came running out, no coat, phone in her hand. I got him. Who? The county clerk. The offshore account belongs to Jennifer Oakes. She was breathless, excited. Marcus paid her $15,000 the same day your permit got approved. It's right here in the transaction records. How'd you... I have contacts at the Treasury Department. Financial Crimes Division. She showed me the phone screen, bank transfers, routing numbers, dates that lined up perfectly. This is federal evidence, Dad. This isn't just a civil case anymore. Will she testify? If she's smart, she'll cooperate. We approach her with this, offer immunity in exchange for testimony. Charlie grinned. Marcus is done. Then we went inside. She printed everything, built a folder 3 inches thick, evidence, timeline, transaction records. We need to approach Jennifer Oaks carefully, Charlie said. If she panics, she could destroy evidence, claim the account's not hers. And so what do? We give her a way out. Show her we know, but offer her a choice. Testify against Marcus or go down with him. I looked at the evidence spread across the table. Months of planning. Months of forgery and bribery and manipulation. They really thought they'd get away with it. They almost did. If you hadn't had those trail cameras, if Earl hadn't called me, if I hadn't dug into the finances, whoa, she shook her head. Small town trust. They used it against you. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Mr. Brennan. A woman's voice. Nervous. This is Jennifer Oaks, from the county clerk's office. Charlie grabbed my arm, mouthed, speakerphone. I switched it. What can I do for you, Jennifer? I need to talk to you. In person. Today, if possible. Her voice shook. It's about the permit. About Marcus Vance. Charlie was already nodding, pointing at the phone. Where do you want to meet? Somewhere private. Not the courthouse. Not anywhere public. A pause. I'm scared, Mr. Brennan. I think I made a terrible mistake. We met her at the equipment lot an hour later. She pulled in, driving a 10-year-old Honda, parked far from the office like she was afraid to get too close. Charlie and I waited by the Quonset hut. Cold wind blew across the lot, rattling the metal siding. The sky was gray, pressing down. Jennifer climbed out, mid-50s, worn down, dressed in a county employee polo under a thin jacket. She looked at me, then at Charlie. Who's this? My daughter, forensic accountant. Jennifer's face went pale. You know? About the $15,000 Marcus paid you? Yeah, we know. Charlie held up the folder. Offshore account, transaction date March 10th. Same day, the permit got approved. Jennifer swayed. For a second, I thought she might fall. Then she steadied herself. He said it was just a processing fee, to expedite the paperwork. Said all the developers paid it. It's called bribery, Charlie said. Flat, professional. And you're looking at federal charges. I didn't know it was illegal. I swear. You're a county clerk. You know exactly what's illegal. Jennifer started crying. Not performance tears, real ones, desperate. My husband has Parkinson's. The medical bills. We're drowning. Marcus knew that. He offered to help, and I was stupid enough to take it. I looked at Charlie. She was watching Jennifer with that forensic accountant expression. Calculating. We can offer you a way out, Charlie said finally. You testify against Marcus. Tell the truth about the bribery, about the backdated permit, about everything. In exchange, we push for immunity. And if I don't, then you go to prison, and your husband goes into state care. Jennifer wiped her face, looked at the equipment lot, at the land. He told me you wouldn't fight, that you were just an old man who'd take whatever deal they offered. She laughed, bitter. He was wrong. Will you testify? I asked. She nodded, slow, defeated. Yes. Charlie drove Jennifer to a lawyer that afternoon, someone she knew from Cleveland who specialized in witness protection and immunity deals. When she got back, it was after dark. I was in the kitchen, staring at photos from the trail cameras. Marcus's truck, time-stamped at 2:17 a.m. 3 nights ago. Walking the property line with surveying equipment, placing stakes. How'd it go? I asked. Charlie poured herself coffee, sat down heavily. She'll testify, but Dad, her husband... She stopped. Started again. He's bad, really bad. Late-stage Parkinson's. Can't feed himself. She's been doing everything alone because they can't afford in-home care. That doesn't excuse what she did. I know, but... She wrapped her hands around the mug. If she goes to prison, he goes into a state facility. Those places they're where people go to die. Slowly, I looked at her. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe we don't need her to face criminal charges. Maybe testimony in your civil case is enough. She met my eyes. Marcus is the real criminal here. He knew she was desperate. He exploited that. She's just collateral damage. She broke the law. So did Mom. So did Marcus. So did the notary. Charlie set down the mug. But we're not trying to destroy all of them, are we? We're trying to get justice. There's a difference. I thought about Jennifer Oaks crying in the parking lot, about her husband who couldn't feed himself, about how Marcus had found her weakness and used it, What does her lawyer say? That if we agree not to pursue criminal charges, she'll testify to everything. The bribery, the backdating, the whole scheme. Charlie pulled out her phone, showed me notes. With her testimony and the financial records, Marcus is done. Criminal charges, civil liability, professional ruin, all of it. And Diane? Fraud charges, forgery, conspiracy, she could do time. Charlie paused. Unless you decide otherwise. I stood up, walked to the window. Outside, the lot was dark, except for the security lights. Equipment shadows stretched long across the snow. 41 years of marriage, good years and bad. Building this business together, planning retirement together, growing old together, all of it erased in 6 weeks of betrayal. I want her to lose everything she cares about, I said quietly. Her reputation, her career, her story. That's not the same as prison. No, but it might be worse. I turned back. Let the courts decide about the criminal charges, but I want everyone to know the truth. Everyone. Charlie nodded slowly. The auction's in 4 days. If we're going to do this, we need to be ready. The next morning, Ray arrived with equipment tags and a plan. Standard auction procedure, he explained, spreading papers across the office desk. Each item gets lot number, description, condition report. Buyer's bid, I call it. Gavel falls. Except we're not actually selling anything, I said. Correct, but nobody knows that yet. He grinned. Which is why we're going to put on the best show this county's ever seen. Charlie leaned over the paperwork. The lot numbers are blank. Exactly. Ray tapped his pen on the tags. In a real auction, every item is numbered sequentially, makes tracking easier. But these? He held up a blank tag. These are props. Anyone who's been to enough auctions will notice. You're leaving clues, Charlie said. Breadcrumbs. For the people smart enough to look. Ray started filling out forms. Auction scheduled for Monday, 10 a.m. I'll set up the pavilion Sunday night. All official, all legitimate looking. What about the equipment list? Already filed with the county. 37 items. Total estimated value $400,000. He looked at me. Which would cover your debts and give Diane exactly what she wants, a quick liquidation in her half. If you were actually selling, Ray leaned back. But you're not. You secured a farm loan last week using the equipment as collateral, paid off the immediate debts. You're solvent. Charlie pulled out her phone, started taking notes. So when Diane and Marcus show up expecting a fire sale, we pull the rug out, announce the auction's withdrawn, equipment's not for sale. Ray's expression hardened, and then we show everyone why. The trail camera footage, I said, among other things. Ray looked at Charlie. You got those financial records ready? Everything. The bribery payments, the LLC transactions, Diane's account transfers. All documented, all proven. And Jennifer Oakes? She'll be there, ready to testify if needed. Ray stood up, gathered the blank tags. Then we've got 4 days to make sure this goes perfectly, because we only get one shot. After he left, Charlie and I sat in the quiet office. The propane heater ticked, wind rattled the windows. Dad, there's something I need to say. I looked at her. When this is over, when the auction happens and the truth comes out, it's going to hurt. She chose her words carefully. The whole town will know. Everyone you've done business with for 40 years will hear the details. Mom's affair, the forgery, all of it. I know. And some people will pity you, some will gossip. Some will think you're the sad old man who couldn't keep his wife interested. I know that too. But you're still doing this. Yeah. Why? I thought about it, about the land, about the business my father started with a handshake, about 41 years of building something that mattered. Because the alternative is letting them win, letting them rewrite history, make me the villain, or the victim, or the fool. I looked at the equipment lot through the window. This land remembers who loved it and who tried to sell it. I want everyone else to remember too. Charlie smiled, sad but proud. Grandpa would approve. Your grandpa would have handled this with a shotgun and a shovel. Different generation. And she stood up, stretched. We do it with spreadsheets and subpoenas. Less dramatic, but it works. My phone buzzed. Text from Diane. I heard about the auction. I'm sorry it came to this. If you need help with the transition, let me know. I showed Charlie. She thinks she's won, Charlie said. Let her think that. I deleted the text. For 3 more days. Outside, the sun was setting. The temperature was dropping, but spring was coming. I could feel it in the air, in the way the light changed, in the robin calls getting more frequent. 3 more days until the snow melted and the truth came out. The auction pavilion went up Sunday night. Ray and his crew worked under floodlights, assembling the aluminum frame, stringing banners, setting up folding chairs. By midnight, it looked official, professional, real. I helped where I could. Carried chairs, ran extension cords for the sound system, tested the microphone. How many people you think will show? I asked Ray. For a liquidation sale? Equipment this good? He surveyed the lot. 100, maybe more. That's a lot of witnesses. That's the point. He tested the gavel against the podium. 3 sharp cracks that echoed across the lot. Everyone in 3 counties is going to know what happened here. Charlie arrived at dawn Monday with coffee and a projector. For the photos, she explained, setting it up behind the podium. I'll run it from my laptop. When you give the signal, I start the slideshow. What if the file corrupts? What if... Dad, I've done this professionally for 8 years. The file won't corrupt. And she connected cables, tested the screen. A trail camera photo appeared, massive and clear. Marcus Vance, timestamp 3:17 a.m., placing survey stakes on my Northwest 40. That'll do, I said. By 9:30, trucks started arriving. Farmers I'd sold equipment to over the years, dealers from neighboring counties, people I didn't recognize, drawn by the classifieds ad. And at 9:45, a black F-250 pulled into the lot. Marcus Vance climbed out. Diane emerged from the passenger side. They'd come together. Earl appeared at my elbow. You see that? I see it. Want me to? No. Let them stay. Let them watch. Ray took the podium at exactly 10 a.m. The crowd settled. Maybe 120 people, packed into the folding chairs and standing along the edges. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Ray's voice boomed through the speakers. Before we begin, Mr. Brennan has something to say. I walked to the podium. My hands were steady. The anger I'd carried for 6 weeks had crystallized into something cold and clear. I saw Diane in the third row. She looked confident, victorious, like she'd already spent her half. Thank you all for coming, I said. The microphone squealed, settled. I appreciate the support during what's been a difficult time. Murmurs of sympathy, people nodded. But I need to be honest with you. This auction isn't happening. Silence. Confused looks. There's no bankruptcy, no liquidation. The equipment's not for sale. I paused. This was staged to prove something. Diane's face changed. Marcus started to stand. See, for the past 2 months, my wife and her business partner have been trying to steal this land. Through forgery, through bribery, through a systematic campaign to make me look incompetent so they could force a sale. That's slander, Marcus shouted. It's documentation. I nodded to Charlie. The projector hummed to life. The first photo appeared on the screen. Diane and Marcus at the diner, time-stamped. 6 weeks of Tuesdays, meeting, while she told me she was showing houses. These are from trail cameras on my property, but I said. Motion activated, time-stamped. Placed here after I found tire tracks where they shouldn't be. The next photo. Marcus on my land at 2 a.m., surveying equipment in hand. That's trespassing, someone called out. That's correct. Next photo. Marcus, placing boundary stakes. He was surveying my land for a development project, without permission, without my knowledge. Diane was on her feet now. Walt, stop this. Next slide, Charlie. The forged deed appeared. My signature, wrong pin, wrong pressure, wrong everything. This is a property deed amendment dated January 7th, the day I was home with the flu. Too sick to sign anything. I held up my left hand. I'm left-handed. That signature is clearly right-handed. It's a forgery. A lawyer in the front row leaned forward studying the image. And this, next slide, the septic permit, is a permit I never signed, never even saw until after it was approved. Charlie advanced to the financial records. The $15,000 payment highlighted in red. That's a bribe paid to Jennifer Oakes, county clerk, on March 10th. The same day my permit was mysteriously approved without my signature. Gasps from the crowd. Someone was recording on their phone. Jennifer, I called out. She stood from the back row, pale, shaking. It's true. Marcus Vance paid me $15,000 to backdate the permit and approve it without proper authorization. I'm cooperating with investigators. Marcus was moving toward the exit. 2 sheriff's deputies stepped in front of him. They'd been waiting at the edge of the crowd, plainclothes, patient. Mr. Vance, one of them said, we need you to come with us. The crowd parted. Marcus looked at Diane, then at me. You planned this. And I documented this. There's a difference. They led him away. The crowd buzzed, everyone talking at once. Diane stood alone in the third row. People were staring. Someone was definitely recording now. Mrs. Brennan, Ray said from the podium, you might want to sit down. But she didn't. She walked toward me, stopped 3 feet away, close enough that only the front rows could hear. You humiliated me, she said quietly. You tried to steal everything I built. We could have split it fairly, could have ended this with dignity. You forged my signature multiple times. You conspired with your boyfriend to commit fraud. Where's the dignity in that? Her mouth opened, closed, no response. Your real estate license is suspended pending investigation, I said. Marcus is facing federal charges. The property partition petition is dismissed. And everyone in 3 counties now knows exactly what you did. I loved you, she said. Once. Past tense already? She looked at me for a long moment. Then she turned and walked toward her car. The crowd parted again. No one spoke to her. No one met her eyes. Earl appeared beside me as her car pulled away. That was brutal, he said. That was necessary. Ray started dismissing the crowd, apologizing for the confusion, thanking everyone for coming. Most people understood. Some lingered, wanting details, wanting to shake my hand. You did the right thing, a farmer told me. Can't let people get away with that kind of thing. Charlie packed up the projector. We should probably expect a call from Diane's lawyer. Let them call. And Mom might... She stopped. Never mind. Might what? Nothing. It doesn't matter anymore. She looked at the crowd dispersing. Is it always like this in small towns? Everyone watching? Pretty much. How do you stand it? Same way you stand anything. You decide what matters more, privacy or truth. I looked at the equipment lot, at the land. I chose truth. 2 hours later, I was in the office when Ray came in with papers. Jennifer Oakes signed her formal statement. Prosecutors have everything they need. He set the folder on my desk. Marcus is being arraigned tomorrow. Fraud, bribery, conspiracy. He's looking at 5 to 10 years. And Diane? Her lawyer called. Wants to settle. No contest divorce. She keeps nothing from the marriage except her personal items. She's signing away all property claims. I should have felt victorious. Should have felt something. Instead, I just felt tired. What about the mental evaluation? Canceled. Judge dismissed the competency motion after reviewing today's evidence. Ray smiled. Turns out orchestrating a complex legal sting operation is pretty good proof of mental fitness. Charlie appeared in the doorway. The prosecutor wants to meet tomorrow. Go over testimony for Marcus's trial. I'll be there. She lingered. Dad, are you okay? Ask me in a month. She nodded. Understood. Went back to her laptop, in her spreadsheets, in the work of documenting everything for the lawyers. Ray stood to leave. Stopped at the door. 40 years I've known you, Walt. Never seen you fight like this. Never had to. Well, he put his hat on. Remind me never to get on your bad side. After he left, I sat alone in the office. The propane heater ticked. Outside, the sun was setting. The equipment lot stretched empty now, the auction pavilion already being disassembled. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mr. Brennan, this is Tom Whitfield. I farm over in Madison County. A pause. I heard what happened today with your wife and the developer. Word travels fast. Small world. Farming. He cleared his throat. Thing is, I'm having a similar problem. Developer trying to force me off my land. Using legal pressure, making me look unfit. I wondered if you might be willing to talk. Share what you learned. I looked out at the lot, at the land my father bought with a handshake, at everything I'd fought to keep. Yeah, I said, I can do that. The courthouse hearing happened 3 weeks later. Judge Rebecca Morrison presided, a woman in her 60s who'd grown up in farm country and had no patience for fraud. She reviewed the evidence in silence. The forged signatures, the trail camera photos, the financial records, Jennifer Oakes' sworn testimony. Diane's lawyer tried to argue that the separation should proceed with equitable distribution. The judge cut her off. Your client conspired to defraud Mr. Brennan of property acquired during the marriage through forgery and bribery. That's marital misconduct. And she looked at Diane over her reading glasses. I'm dismissing the partition petition with prejudice. Mr. Brennan retains full ownership of all marital property. Mrs. Brennan forfeits any claim. Your Honor, that's my ruling. We're done here. Charlie and I walked out into April sunshine. The courthouse steps were warm. Daffodils bloomed in the planters by the entrance, yellow and bright against the gray stone. It's over, Charlie said. The legal part is. What other part is there? I didn't answer. Didn't know how to explain that endings weren't clean. That 41 years didn't just disappear because a judge signed papers. We drove back to the lot. Charlie had extended her stay twice now, working remotely, sleeping in her childhood bedroom. She'd mentioned maybe looking at properties nearby, maybe keeping a weekend place. We'd see. Marcus Vance's development company filed for bankruptcy 2 days after his arraignment. The commercial properties he'd leveraged to fund the residential project went to auction. Ray handled the sale, said the banks took pennies on the dollar. Marcus himself pled guilty to fraud and bribery, got 7 years federal, eligible for parole in 5. His lawyer tried to argue for leniency. First offense, family man, community ties. The prosecutor brought up 3 other farmers Marcus had pressured into selling. Suddenly, it wasn't a first offense, it was a pattern. The judge wasn't sympathetic. Diane left town the day after the courthouse hearing. Someone saw her at a bus station in Columbus, heading east. She didn't forward an address, didn't say goodbye. Her real estate license was permanently revoked. The state board didn't take kindly to agents who committed fraud against their own spouses. I should have felt satisfied. Should have felt vindicated. Mostly I just felt empty. May came soft and warm. The mud season passed, leaving the fields ready for planting. I spent mornings on the tractor, spreading seed, listening to the engine rumble, and the birds call, and the wind move through the greening trees. Charlie helped when she could. Took vacation time from her firm, said she'd forgotten how good it felt to work with her hands. We didn't talk much while we worked. Didn't need to. Just drove the rows, turned at the fence lines, kept going. The lilacs bloomed the second week of May, purple and fragrant, exactly like Diane had planned when she planted them 30 years ago. I thought about cutting them down, thought about erasing that reminder, but they were beautiful, and they'd outlast the pain. One morning I found Charlie standing by the bushes, coffee in hand, staring at the flowers. "You keeping them?" she asked when I walked up. "Yeah." "Why?" "Because they're still here, still growing. Seems wasteful to destroy something just because it reminds me of hard times." I touched a bloom. Soft petals, strong scent. "Your mom planted these, but they're not hers anymore." "They're just lilacs." Charlie smiled. "That's very zen, Dad. That's very tired of being angry." We stood together in the morning quiet. A tractor passed on the county road, distant engine sound. The fields stretched green toward the horizon. "I'm thinking about moving back," Charlie said. "Not here, but closer. Maybe Dayton. Commute to Cleveland when I need to." What changed? I remembered what I was running from, and I realized it wasn't the place. It was, she stopped, started again. It was feeling invisible, feeling like the business mattered more than I did. It didn't. I know that now. She looked at me. "You showed up for me these past 2 months. Really showed up. That means something. I should have shown up 30 years ago." "Yeah, you should have." She smiled, but better late than never. Tom Whitfield from Madison County came by the following week, brought his lawyer and his property documents in a story that sounded too familiar. Developer pressuring him to sell, legal harassment, whisper campaigns about his competency. We sat in the office, spread papers across the desk, built a strategy. "Document everything," I told him. "Every conversation, every meeting, every promise they make. Get it in writing or get it on camera. They'll say I'm paranoid. Let them. You're not paranoid if they're actually out to get you." But Charlie walked him through the financial audit process, how to trace LLC ownership, how to spot bribery patterns, how to protect assets before a legal fight started. "You don't have to do this alone," she said. "That's what they count on. Isolation, making you think you're the only one." Tom left with a folder full of templates and contact numbers in the name of Charlie's lawyer friend in Cleveland. He shook my hand at the door. "Thank you. Really, I didn't know where else to turn." That's what neighbors do," I said, heard Ray's voice in my own. After he left, Charlie looked at me. "You're going to keep doing this, aren't you? Helping farmers fight these battles?" "If they ask." You realize this could become a full-time thing. Consulting, advocacy, maybe even organizing. I'm 67 years old, little late for a career change. Grandpa was 70 when he started the equipment dealership. That was different. How? I didn't have an answer for that. 3 weeks later, I sat on the porch at dawn with my coffee. The rain gauge showed 2 inches from last night's storm. Good for the seedlings. I could see green rows emerging in the northeast 40, straight and even. My father's old field notebook sat on the table beside me. I'd found it in the office last week, buried under invoices from 1987. His handwriting, careful and precise, documenting weather and planting dates and yields. I opened it, wrote today's date, wrote the rain measurement, wrote first visible growth, northeast 40, corn emerging uniform, continuing his work. Keeping the record, the daffodils I'd planted on his grave were still blooming, yellow against the gray stone. Charlie had been there yesterday morning, left fresh flowers. She'd signed a lease on a condo in Dayton, moving back to Ohio in June. Said she'd be around most weekends. Said maybe she'd learn to drive the tractor properly, not just the basics I'd taught her when she was 8. Ray's auction house had a good spring. Equipment sales were up. He'd bought some items from Marcus's bankruptcy liquidation, paid pennies on the dollar, resold them to farmers who needed honest machinery at fair prices. Said it felt like justice. Earl's Diner was busier than ever. People came in, asking about the auction, about what had happened, about whether I was okay. Earl defended my privacy fiercely, told gossips to mind their own business. The land remembered who loved it and who tried to sell it. The community remembered, too. I heard footsteps behind me. Charlie appeared with her own coffee, sat in the chair next to mine. "Can't sleep?" I asked. "Too excited. Start date's confirmed, June 1st. She sipped her coffee. "Firm's letting me work remote 3 days a week. I'll be in Cleveland Tuesdays and Wednesdays." "That's good." "Yeah." She looked at the fields. "I forgot how quiet it is here in the mornings, how the light comes up slow." We sat in comfortable silence. A robin called from the grain silo. The wind moved through the lilacs, carrying their scent across the lot. "Dad? Yeah? Do you miss her?" I thought about Diane, about 41 years of marriage, good and bad, about the woman I'd loved, and the woman who'd tried to steal everything I'd built. I miss who I thought she was, the person I married. I set down my coffee. But that person left a long time before the diner. I just didn't notice. Charlie nodded, understood. She'd lived through her own version of that, watching her parents' marriage from the outside, seeing the cracks form, feeling helpless to stop it. "You're doing okay, though," she said. Not a question. "I'm doing okay." The sun cleared the tree line, warming the porch boards. The fields stretched green toward the horizon. My grandfather's old surveying transit sat on the table beside the field notebook, brass catching the light. Charlie wanted to learn to use it properly, said maybe she'd teach her kids someday, if she ever had any. Pass it down, keep the precision, some battles you won with noise. This one I'd won with receipts and cameras and preparation. But the real victory wasn't in the winning. It was in the staying, in the planting, in the morning coffee, in the rain gauge, in the field notebook that would outlast us all. The land remembered, and now everyone else would too. From the office, my phone rang. Probably another farmer calling, another fight brewing, another person who needed help standing their ground. I stood up. Charlie stood with me. "You want me to get it?" she asked. "No," I said. I got it." We walked inside together. The coffee was hot, the day was new, the work continued, and that was enough. 6 months later, I sat on the porch in the early evening. October light came soft and golden across the fields. The harvest was in. Yields were good. Better than good. Best in 5 years. Charlie's car was in the driveway. She'd driven up Friday afternoon, would stay through Sunday. We developed a rhythm. Weekends together. Her teaching me about financial software. Me teaching her about soil composition and equipment maintenance. Trading knowledge across generations. Ray had stopped by earlier with news. Another farmer needed help. Developer using the same tactics Marcus had used. Forged signatures, pressure campaigns. Ray wanted to know if I'd consult. I'd said yes. The work had found me. Or maybe I'd found the work. 3 farmers. So far, all of them fighting to keep land that had been in their families for generations. All of them winning because someone showed them the patterns, taught them to document, reminded them they weren't alone. Charlie said I should formalize it, start a nonprofit. Rural land defense. Something official, maybe. We'd see. The lilacs had bloomed twice this year. Spring and a second flush in late summer. Unusual but not unheard of. I'd stopped thinking of them as Diane's. They were just part of the landscape now. Beautiful and stubborn and surviving. I hadn't heard from Diane in 6 months. Didn't expect to. She'd rebuilt somewhere else. Under a different name probably. Started over. People did that. I'd started over too, just in place instead of running. The screen door creaked. Charlie came out with 2 glasses of iced tea, handed me one. We sat together watching the sun drop toward the tree line. "Tom Whitfield called," she said. "Won his case. Developer withdrew all claims. Good. He wants to pay you. Tell him to donate it to the Land Conservancy. Dad, you could actually make this a business." "It's not a business. It's neighbors helping neighbors." I sipped the tea, sweet and cold. That's how it should stay. She didn't argue, just smiled and shook her head. A truck passed on the county road. The sound faded into evening quiet. Crickets started their chorus. The air smelled like cut hay and cooling earth and the promise of frost coming soon. "You happy, Dad?" Charlie asked. I thought about it, about the land, about the work, about Sunday mornings with my daughter drinking coffee and planning the week ahead. "Yeah," I said. "I am." She reached over, squeezed my hand once. Let go. We sat in the growing dark. The fields stretched empty now, resting through winter. Come spring, they'd be planted again. The cycle continuing. The land remembering. Inside, the field notebook waited on the kitchen table. Tonight, I'd write the final entry for the season. Record the yields, note the weather patterns. Leave a record for whoever came after. The land remembered who loved it and who tried to sell it. I'd made sure of that, and that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.